we're going to get started. This is the first meditation class of the month, which means it's question and answer. It's also the first meditation class after we've been around for 13 years. And I reminded Sam to ask me about this, but I'm just going to say it. I just wanted him to remind me. You remember what it was?
What is the number 13?
What is the number 13? So this is our lucky 13th anniversary at the dojo. And I'm sure that in some cultures, 13 is a lucky, auspicious number. It gets a bad rap in the United States. I think this is going to be our best year yet. And that is the power that I'm giving the number 13. Most people, we have things like the number 13 or black cats or like whatever, and walking under a ladder, spilling salt or something, and all this stuff has creepy paranormal powers. And we're like, this is gonna ruin my year. If you don't throw salt over your shoulder, you get 7 years of bad luck. Is that how that goes? All this stuff. And I don't know how all this started, but surely somebody at some point spilled salt and had a bad year, or 7 bad years, I guess. And then it like kind of got around, right? So we have these things that we've heard are bad, and then we have other things that we say are really good. So it's like I see a penny that's face up. This is a lucky penny. The one that cracks me up is they say when it rains on your wedding day that this is good luck. And it's like, that's the definition of bad luck. It rained on your wedding day. My dad, and he would love it if I share this with all of you, has, I think, 2 or 3, more than once, 2 or 3 separate occasions been pooped on by a seagull. And some people say, well, that's good luck. That is also not good luck. That is also bad luck. Being pooped on by any animal is bad luck. And yet we can take these clearly terrible things and say, this is good. This is good luck. We can also do that with things that other people think are bad luck, like the number 13. And so it is my intention this year that this 13th year of the dojo is going to be the best year yet. And I hope that all of you take that intention with you. Show up to class thinking this is going to be it. This is the year that I finally learn how to do that triangle or whatever it is that you're struggling with. Don't show up to class thinking like, oh, there's another year where I'm just going to suck forever. No, this is it. This is your year. And it is always any of these little signs, these little things that we take, we always get to interpret them and make them mean what they mean for us. It doesn't really matter if everybody else in society says that it's a bad thing. They can think what they want. For us, it is what it is. So you certainly don't have to ask me questions about that, but you can if you want to. You can ask me anything about meditation, about something internal, and I'll give my standard disclaimer, which is that this is not the answer. It's not written in stone anywhere. If you take anything that I say and write it in stone, it is such a waste of time because I'll give you a different answer a year from now, and it'll be a better answer. And sometimes you won't just be able to add on to it. You'll have to just trash the first stone tablet and write something else. Make your questions quick and easy to understand because we get bored easily. If you are watching on Instagram, you can type it. If you're watching on Zoom, you can raise your hand, press that button, or you can type it to us as well. Any questions? Yes, not about the number 13.
No, sir. So as the dojo grows older, as we grow older, the years go by, how do you begin to assess that you're still improving, still getting better as a human being, as a person, as everything that we're trying to do on this earth? How do we make note, or how do you make note that you're better than you were last year?
Yeah, great question. How do you know you're getting better? And as time goes by, you don't want to stay the same, and you're also trying not to get worse. And I will say that does happen sometimes. Sometimes we do stay the same, and sometimes we do get worse. And sometimes, the thing that happens very often is we are actually getting better, but as you said, you don't notice that you're getting better. You don't recognize it. That is fine. Actually getting worse or staying the same is not ideal. And if it happens, we don't want to just be like, well, I had a bad month where I didn't get better, so I just give up on everything. Practice, life. I had a couple bad meditations. I'm just done meditating, I guess. This is not really answering your question, but this is where I'm going to take it for now. If we get enough out of a practice like martial arts, like meditation, and that's like money in the bank, right? Let's say that you have a really good year where you really felt and recognized solid improvement. And the first year of practice is a ton of I'm terrible at this, and then I figure it out, and then I get better at it, and it's obvious because I was so bad, like brutally terrible, to the point where I don't even tell you guys how bad you are because I don't want you to quit. And then you get like decent enough to take a yellow sash test and be good. And there's such a massive difference between where you started and where you are now after a year. Now that is so much improvement versus between year 2 and year 3, which might feel like a fraction at best of the improvement that you made in year 1. And then from year 3 to year 4, it's like, I mean, if I squint, I can see how much better I am. Now, of course, if you're taking tests and you practice for a couple of years and then you're taking the next test, you're like, well, I'm better because I passed that test. And that's part of the reason why we do the test, is because you are testing on increasingly difficult things. And so you know that you're better because you are able to do stuff that you weren't tested on before. Maybe you think I could have done that test a year ago. Maybe you're right. But that's part of the kind of obvious way. So we kind of have these somewhat arbitrary points in practice where we have learned X amount of stuff, so we take a test. And it's been X amount of time, and we've learned this form, and we've learned a couple more techniques, and so we test on it. That's an easy way. You can look at yourself in the mirror and see, I have a different color sash on, right? I don't get to do that anymore. And so if you're wondering, I've been practicing for longer than 13 years. I didn't open the dojo the day I started practicing martial arts. It's been 25 years for me. And after 25 years, yes, the improvements come slowly. And the tests don't happen. I don't test anymore. I just hope that I'm getting better. Now, there are external validations that I might get where, I'm practicing jiu-jitsu and I'm able to tap somebody that I wasn't able to tap before. A lot of times it's the opposite. Because again, I'm improving more slowly than people who have been practicing for less time. And maybe I get somebody big and good like you, and maybe you start tapping me more often than you used to. Well, then I think, maybe I'm getting worse physically, but then I realize I might be. Maybe I'm just the same or slightly better and you're improving, but also that must mean that I'm getting better at teaching because my students are starting to tap me. That's good. So you can always find something that you're getting better at if you're creative enough. And there is certainly a point where our physical body starts to slow down. We will not Catherine's been doing this for the last 20 years. No, I'm just joking. So I yell at you to be faster, and you are generally faster. But I'm slower today than I was a year ago at many things physically. But maybe I recognize things that I didn't recognize before, right? And you guys will notice the same thing in your own practice. I see, lots of Tai Chi people watching right now. Maybe you're not able to get as low as you used to in a posture, or maybe you never were able to get that low, but you're getting the details. Your feet are in the right place now. Your breathing is correct. You're actually in the present and just feeling the flow of your breath and your body and the energy instead of being up in your head thinking, how come I can't get any lower than this? And all of this is great. So the improvements are sometimes obvious. The longer you practice, the rarer those obvious improvements are, and the more subtle things are what we start to pay attention to. The good news is, the longer you practice, the more you should start to recognize the subtleties. And that will help you feel good about your practice. And you don't always have to feel good about your practice. There might be days where you come in and you are just bad, and it's like, this is the worst class I think I've ever had. I'm terrible, and the class was terrible. I didn't like it at all. Well, if this is your first class, you're never coming back to the dojo. If you've been coming for a couple of years, or at least one, solid year, and you've got a lot of good experiences in the bank, then you'll keep coming. That's what I was talking about at the beginning of this. And then there will be months where you feel like you're kind of stagnant. And then there will be years where a lot of your stuff is just kind of the same. And you're like, am I really getting better? There will come a time where you're not actually getting much better. You're probably getting better at certain things, the very subtle things, and other things you are getting slower. You're getting older, you're getting rickety, and you're like, things hurt more than they used to. I literally can't sleep without it hurting anymore. I wake up in the morning and my back hurts for no reason. I did nothing yesterday. All I did, I felt great when I went to bed. I go to sleep, I wake up, my back hurts. So this is what's going to happen to all of us. I need to get a different bed, and I stretch. I stretch every night, and I stretch every morning, and I have a heat pack, and I roll out on a foam roller, and I've just figured out how to deal. That's coming for us all. And if we can ask ourselves this question, there's not a better question than your question, it's a different question that might get you someplace that is at least as helpful as everything that I just said, which is this. If I stop improving, and I mean not even like I can kind of imagine or recognize the subtle things that I'm getting better at. I mean literally I just am done getting better. And maybe even I start to backslide a little bit, I start to get worse. Will I keep practicing? I know what the answer is for me, because I don't know what I would do if I didn't come to the dojo. I would be so bored. I love spending time with my family, and one day at a time is enough for that. So I love coming into the dojo. I love spending time with you guys. And there are things that I'm staying the same at or getting worse at. And I still really enjoy doing it. I enjoy teaching. I can get other people better than I am at certain things. I love that, and that is not the way that it is for everybody. If you're not going to teach martial arts, you might feel really bad about coming in and somebody who's practiced less time than you is passing you up. Guess what? That's going to happen to every single person. You can be the best person in the world. I'm joking. You can be really good and still somebody is better than you. You are never going to be the best. And even if you are the best, you can hold on to that for this long, and then somebody's going to come up. And if you are attached to being the best, or you're even just attached to being pretty good, then you're going to lose that someday. Like all of our attachments come back to bite us someday. So, would you keep practicing if you stopped getting better? And if you can find a good reason to keep practicing, then you'll be able to let go of the need to get better. And then the magic happens when you no longer need to get better. You're going to relax more, you'll flow with it, and you will probably actually get even better than you would have otherwise as soon as you stop worrying about all that. Other question. If you guys at home have questions, you better type. Wait, did I just see somebody raise their hand? Is that Deborah? Did you raise your hand, Deborah? Tell me.
Yes, but I was waiting for someone else to ask a question.
Oh, there's no waiting, Deborah. Your okay. Question is the perfect question for right now.
Okay, and I'm thinking why you may have posed this question, but let me start with this. In an effort to be independent from outside influences, I'm wondering why would the question of the week be to ask 3 people their opinions of you, especially if their opinion is really a perspective based on where they stand. So you're really, why would I ask someone their opinion just to mess me up, and then they can lie, and then if they like me, they're only going to tell me the best thing that they can. So, why am I going to ask? So I'm supposed to say,
please.
Wait. and their perspective is only based on their own perception. Now, then my beginner's mind says, is this why you posed the question? Because I'm asking each one of us is both dependent and independent.
All right. I'm going to take the reins back now. This is a wonderful question. You're not even the first person to ask me this question today, Deborah. The question is, you didn't hear that? You lost it halfway through. Okay. The question is, why? So the challenge of the week, for those of you who don't know this, the challenge of the week for your internal challenge is ask three different people, what do you think of me? Or how do you see me? And that those different wordings might give you a very different perspective on this, right? How do you see me versus what do you think of me? And that might elicit a different response from people. It's kind of still the same thing. Where you're asking somebody for their opinion. As Deborah said, it's their perspective. Their perspective, on the one hand, is absolutely, totally, and completely meaningless. Just like my perspective is totally meaningless to you, useless, pointless, unless I'm telling you how to fix your front kick or something, then you'll listen to me. But if you ask me how I see you, you might really care about my answer. I mean, if I asked my Sifu, I'd be like, please, Sifu, I hope you like me. But at the end of the day, it is totally pointless, right? And that is part of what there is with this question. Now, you're asking, Deborah, why would I ask somebody what they think of me if this is how I feel about this question? The answer is, I don't think that you would ask somebody what they think of you if this is how you feel about this question. And that's okay. Remember, the challenge of the week is not something that you have to do. It's something that you get to elect to do. I was talking about this with the kids earlier today. And I asked the kids, should you care a lot about what other people think of you? Should this be very important to you to the point where it is stressing you out and you feel like it's how you should shape your personality is how other people think of you? And all the kids know the answer. It's no, sir. Their kids are 5 years old and they know this. Now, of course, it's because I ask them, like, do you think that you should do this? And the kids all know when I start to ask them that way. But they also know this. Now, that doesn't change that is still what most of us do, at least way too much of, on balance. We probably spend too much time thinking about what other people think of us. And you're absolutely right, Deborah, that we are meant to be independent and we are meant to really, march through life without spending so much time caring about what other people think of us. Most of us spend way too much time and energy on that. And most of us change who we are or who we appear to be in order to placate other people. And that's a shame. And the other side of this question, of course, as you said, is we are both independent and dependent. If you live, there was a show that I liked. It was only on for I think 2 seasons, called The Last Man on Earth. I think it was called. Who was in that show? Will Forte. If you like Will Forte, you'll like this show because he is a lot of the show. The Last Man on Earth. It's him. And in like the end of the first episode, there's somebody else. And you can't make a show, and you definitely can't make a life that is interesting if you are the only person in it. It doesn't mean that you have to get married and have kids. Maybe it means that for you. Maybe it means that you come to the dojo. It's whatever it is for you. It is very difficult to, make progress and have an interesting experience if it is just you by yourself. The yin and yang of it is, if we are, one thing only, we can't really understand what we are, where our boundaries are, what we are capable of and not capable of, and all of this stuff, unless we have other people to interact with, to rub up against, to kind of, get that experience of connection and conflict. And that is one of the amazing and annoying things about other people, is that we kind of need them to experience ourselves fully. Now, a very simple answer to your question, Deborah, besides all the amazing stuff that I just said, is that if you don't care what other people think of you, which is great, yet you still are living in a world that is populated with other people, and I mean, you have to buy stuff from other people, unless you're like living in the woods and you're totally self-sufficient, you're catching your own rainwater in a barrel and farming your own vegetables and all this stuff, you're totally off the grid. Okay, there are some people that are like that, but that's not me and that's not you guys. You're here and you're watching this on the internet. You're very much on the grid. So you live in a world and you are, for better or worse, in this situation where other people do matter. It is at least useful to know what they think of you, because let's say that I think of myself as being this type of person. I think of myself as being, somebody who meditates all the time and somebody who teaches martial arts, and I ask somebody, what do you think of me? This is somebody who I've known for a couple of months, let's say, and they're like, you seem pretty interesting. I got no idea what you do for a job or what you do. If somebody does not know what I do for a job, I will be way more than heartbroken. I talk so much about this and I care so much about this that it is very important to me that even if you know nothing else about me, and even if you hate everything about me, you better at least know that I teach martial arts. And you also probably know that I meditate every day. And is it the most important part of me? Probably not, but it's up there. And if somebody does not know that about me, that means that there's something missing in the way that I am explaining myself and coming across to people. It doesn't mean that there's necessarily anything wrong with me, but it means that there is a missing or something that is kind of lacking in the way that I'm communicating, right? And communication is very important to me. So I want to know that. Now, for some of you, you don't care and it doesn't impact you at all if people know what you do for a living. You might hate your job, fine. But there's something about you that is important to you that you want people to know. And if these people don't know about this thing, then that is a useful thing for you to know. If I ask somebody what they think of me and they know nothing about the things that are important to me, that's useful information. And at the very least, it's that. So that's a very simple explanation for this question, Deborah, is yes, you're right. And I hope that many people have the same kind of reaction, maybe not as strong as your reaction to it, but why do I care what other people think? You're right. You shouldn't. And you should also care because it's important to know how you're coming across, you're living in society, all that stuff. And let's be real. Until we have fully crossed over into, a permanent state of enlightenment, you are still living in a way where you have at least some desire, and very often our desire is wrapped up in something to do with other people. Even if it's I'm buying the car that I really want from somebody else, it has something to do with other people. So until we are, fully enlightened, whatever that means, free of desire completely, it is useful to know what other people think of us. And you're right, you might get an answer that is a total lie. Somebody is just saying something that they think you want to hear. And that's not super useful, but it's more useful than nothing. You can recognize what they're saying as being something that they just want you to hear. And then you gotta ask yourself, well, what is up with me that this person feels totally unsafe telling me the truth? Maybe I need to do something about that. And maybe you'll get a spectacular answer, right? I mean, there are entire jobs, careers, and people who dedicate their lives to coaching and therapy. This is a very useful thing to talk to someone. I know therapy is not like, what do you think of me? But to have this interaction with somebody where you can get some really great hard truths. If you don't have anybody in your life who will give you the goods, at least ask me, Deborah. I will give you an answer that you don't want to hear, that will also make you very happy. at the very least, because you'll get something good to work on. So, but you want people in your life that are like that. If you only have people in your life that think you're awful and will only tell you bad things, then that's not balanced. And if you only have people in your life who are going to give you only the good stuff and not give you any of the stuff that you can work on, then that's also out of balance. But for the purposes of this question, you should mostly be asking people who are going to give you good answers, and by that I mean bad stuff that you don't want to hear, because that's the good stuff. Make sense? Great. Who else has a question? Catherine?
Can you talk about curiosity in martial arts and meditation?
Oh boy, you should be curious. So as soon as you start to think you know the answer, you are dying in a sense. You are no longer growing, you're staying the same or getting worse. And as we talked about in the beginning of class, that's not the worst thing that could happen, but it's definitely not the best thing that can happen. So be curious and always assume that you don't know. This is beginner's mind, right? I start talking about front punches and you're like, I know how to do a front punch. Then you've killed off the opportunity to learn and grow in that moment. So on a very basic level, I mean, you're coming to class. You're not coming to class to do stuff that you already know and not learn anything new, so be curious. In meditation, yes, be curious about yourself, be curious about the thoughts that you're having. So often I think we think of meditation as like, my job right now is to block off these thoughts and to force them away and not allow anything into my mind. And of course it's useful to be able to have such a strong focus that I'm only thinking of the breath and feeling the breath and there's no distraction. And that's also not going to happen most of the time when we meditate. So when we do have the thought, instead of just fighting against it, try inviting it in and being curious about it. Why is it that that thought keeps coming up? What is it that's going on there? Is that just a thought that I've had so many times that it's just wired into me and it keeps showing up? Or is this a thing that I need to deal with? Is this something that really does require some attention outside of meditation? I think curiosity is one of the best, most important traits that we can have. And I personally really try to be curious about what's going on with you guys, right? If I'm teaching class and I teach the same class to the same people, and I never am like, well, what does Catherine need and what does Sam need and what does Elliot need? Because these are very different things. And then to really be curious and like get into what somebody else's experience is so useful in practice and in life. So I could talk about that for a long time, and we're already way past the end of this part of the class. So you two are going to have to ask me your questions later on. You don't have to wait a month. You can just ask me in the next class that you're in. But in this meditation, let's go ahead and go with that. You can be curious about the thought that shows up. And you can do that without being attached to it. So curiosity is kind of like acceptance and embracing and allowing it in, and kind of allow it to bounce a little bit around in your skull, and then say, okay, great, I have some interesting stuff to think about after this meditation, or I got to some kind of a conclusion right away and I can let it go because of that. But if the first thing that comes into mind is also the last thing that you're thinking about in this meditation, and you're just sitting there thinking about the same thing for the entire time, that was not meditation. So you also want to be curious about the next thing. And you also want to be curious about your breath. So one of the reasons that the breath is the thing that we choose to focus on in meditation is because it is, on its surface, so incredibly boring. One of the most boring things. You may as well be watching paint dry. It's the breath. It's like you've been breathing all day. You've been breathing for your entire life. And so what's so interesting about this? Exactly. Be curious about that. What does this breath feel like? What does it feel like in my lungs? What does it feel like in my throat and my nose? What does it feel like in my toes and my fingers? And when the thought comes and distracts you, you can be curious about that without getting attached to it. Just let it go and come back. Go ahead, man. Just sounds like that's somebody who shouldn't be in here, so. Yeah. Great. It is a person who belongs here. Then you can let him go, Sam. Get back out here. What was I talking about? Be curious. Be curious about who just walked in the dojo. Be curious about the thought that just walked into your brain. And be curious in meditation, first and foremost, about the breath, right? What does this feel like? And just really allow yourself to sink into that curiosity and enjoy it, rather than feeling like you're fighting against it. Sit comfortably. Tall. Close eyes. Spine straight. Eyes upturned. Relax. Watch the breath. Let go of all thoughts, worries, and cares. Be here now.